Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Season Keepers, the show where the only two people we recommend keeping for the season is us. My name's Matt, aka Clean Sheet Wipeout.
My name's James, aka FPL Drug.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. I nearly said Matt then in the intro. Obviously, big shitstorm is in the news, which we'll come on to later after we do our usual FPL review. I'm sure we'll look forward to getting our teeth stuck into that one.
Can't fucking wait, mate. Yeah, I think it's definitely worth leaving that to, the second half of the pod. So anybody that is not wanting to listen about the European Super League and our opinions, obviously you can get our usual pod and then switch off. But I think we're both quite opinionated on the matter and probably spent a bit of the day together looking at, some of the reasons why they've gone down this way, some of the comments made, kind of a bit of thought behind it. So we'll have a good discussion. But other breaking news for those off the YouTube, I've had a haircut, so you'll be pleased to know that's probably the biggest news of this week, mate.
Yeah, just pips the ear, so I think.
Just about. Right, fuck it. Let's jump straight in then, and we'll do the FPL review. So first things first, Jose Mourinho's last game in charge for Spurs. It was Everton 2, Spurs 2.
Yeah, a bit of a sort of surprise performance, really. I didn't expect the game to have so many goals in it. Credit to Everton, obviously, and Sigurdsson. Very good performance from Sigurdsson. And obviously, Kane got a bit of a injury near the end.
He did, yeah. He was obviously, 215% owned, I think it was, at my rank, which is fucking ridiculous. Obviously, with triple captaincies galore. So that was a bit of a pain. But I didn't really get the people not celebrating the fact that Kane had scored and, being critical and saying, oh, I've seen a rank drop. I saw a rank drop of 2K, like big whoop. Had I not owned Kane, that rank drop would be about 22K. So I don't care if people have triple captained around me and I rank dropped. The fact that I captained Kane was the best decision I could make in the game that week. So
exactly. It's more the case of the disaster that would have happened if you didn't own him.
Yeah,
and avoiding that disaster is to be celebrated.
Exactly. It's the whole EO debate. And yeah, sometimes it can inform decisions, but at the same time, when it's this big of an ownership, I think you've got to go with it anyway. And a lot of people were saying, oh, well, I'd see a rank drop, with Kane, so I went Son. Well, you saw a much bigger rank drop because of that. So I just didn't understand the decision at all.
Yeah, like it was kind of a no-brainer to really go with Kane. Like, there's always that little bit of me that kind of wants to go against the grain and pick someone like Son, but I really felt like this week wasn't the week to do it. So
no, definitely.
I'm glad I'd have been kicking myself.
And it's not even like Spurs had the chances. Kane took advantage of 2 errors or 2 deflections from Everton to score his 2 goals, and that's the striker that Harry Kane is. He's sharp. He took those opportunities instantly. Didn't think about them, just hit them. Without Kane, I think Spurs would have easily lost this game. And then the substitutions that Mourinho made, again, questionable. You've got Gareth Bale, for instance, sat on the bench again. And is it 2-2? He brings on Lamela, brings on Lucas Moura. Yeah, I know that they're decent players, but they're not the finisher that, the likes of Gareth Bale is. So just another questionable decision, which I think in the end has probably led to his demise.
Yeah, I think a combination of his decision and just his sort of general tactics, they set up very negatively with this team. A lot of Spurs fans sort of spoke out about this team selection, with essentially way too many defenders on the pitch.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see how they line up against us tomorrow. We're obviously recording on Tuesday, the 20th of April. So Spurs Saints haven't kicked off yet, but we know that Harry Kane's going to be missing. So and I think it's Ryan Mason has been given temporary charge till the end of the season. So good luck to him.
Yeah, I hope he does. He does a sort of a decent job in what is difficult circumstances. But I think a lot of Spurs fans are obviously relieved that Mourinho is gone.
Yeah, agreed. Although a shame they probably couldn't celebrate it anywhere near as much as they wanted to, given the ESL news. But we'll come on to that.
No, exactly. No jelly and ice cream for James at Planet
Oh,
FPL.
mate, I know. I felt so sorry for him. I really did. Right, moving on then, and a cracker. To be fair, at St James's Park, it was Newcastle 3, West Ham 2.
Yeah, a very strange game, this one. Obviously, Diop managing to score an own goal. I swear that happens way too often, where defenders will often redeem themselves.
Agreed.
Like it happens way more than you think about it.
Yep.
But again, credit to Lingard, another goal, and continues what is a exceptional run of form. Obviously, not enough for West Ham to even come away with a point against Newcastle, which ultimately they'll be very disappointed by.
Yeah.
But again, Saint-Maximin in with an assist, making a difference. Him and obviously Willock as well is worth mentioning. Every time Willock's played this season, which he's not played too much, obviously he's on loan from Arsenal, but he's looked quite good, quite clinical.
Agreed. Yeah. No, it was a huge performance from Newcastle, and probably one of the biggest of the season. I mean, they needed it at this stage, and given other results, I think potentially saved them. Getting these 3 points. Whereas West Ham, it's the slip up that they didn't really want. Given the position that they're in, and that Dawson red card, unfortunate. Second yellow in the build up to Diop scoring the own goal. Obviously, then plays continued. Diop scores the own goal. The ref then goes to give Dawson the second yellow card, and off he trots. And I do remember you obviously previously owned Dawson. I had a cheeky look, and he swiftly left your team, so that was unfortunate.
I'm glad he's not in my team anymore. But what is essentially quite a big swing for owners of Dawson compared to owners of Kufal, because Kufal obviously got the assist. He's sort of sat on 4 points, and Dawson owners on -3. Similar price points are the defenders. Obviously, Kufal's 4.6, Dawson's 4.5, but sort of those are the sort of swings and roundabouts in FPL where you can just get on the wrong defender at the same sort of price point.
Yeah, agreed. It was a 7-point swing at the end of the day, wasn't it? It's massive. And Jesse Lingard, obviously, as you said, still on form. When he stepped up for that penalty, I was a little bit worried, that this might be the one that he misses. Obviously, previously, he missed one before, didn't he? But then scored the rebound.
He did, yeah. I owned him for that.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned when he stepped up. He was my captain in Sky. So I thought, oh, fuck, here we go. But now, thankfully, slotted at home. So that was good to see. Right. Not really a lot to say about the next game, to be honest. I think it was incredibly predictable. It was Wolves 1, Sheffield United 0.
Yeah, and ultimately the game that confirmed all the Sheffield United's relegation, which was we all knew was coming.
Yeah.
Not a terrible performance from them, but I'm happy to see William Josie get his first goal. Obviously, he had what was a perfectly good goal ruled out against I can't remember who, but the goal should have stood. So I'm glad to see him get a goal, and obviously Traore getting an assist, continuing his sort of mini resurgence. Whether that continues, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think a lot of people like myself were very happy with this clean sheet, which we sort of expected. Myself going for Cody on the wild card in 31, obviously eyeing up their good fixture run. I'm glad to bag a clean sheet at this game.
Yeah, I was going to say you've had a couple of clean sheets on the trot. It was Fulham of the last game, obviously, that Jose had scored, but it was wrongly ruled out. Obviously, thankfully, didn't change the projection of the game with Wolves beating Fulham 1-0 in that one too, and obviously Traore got the goal in that game. But yeah, like you said, confirms Sheffield United relegation. We all knew it was coming, and hopefully they can rebuild in the summer. I think they've got the players to deal with the Championship. They've just got injuries this season, massively, particularly in defence, which has been incredibly unfortunate. they just need to regroup, come back, and I fully expect them to be challenging quite well in the championship next season.
Oh yeah, as would I.
All right, jumping on to Sunday's fixture, and a huge kick in the teeth for Scotty Parker. It was Arsenal 1, Fulham 1.
Those of you on the YouTube will be able to see that I'm smiling because it was another week of Matt's Fulham clean sheet getting wiped out in injury time.
Fucking joke.
I can believe it. I texted him I think 5 minutes into injury time, expecting him to get that clean sheet, and I was like, "Wow, can't believe you've got this clean sheet." But there we go, and I think it was the 8th minute of injury time or 7th minute. They
seventh minute, yeah,
wiped out the clean sheet, which did not see coming. But yeah, Arsenal nearly lost this game, which is worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean they weren't great, and obviously, big talking point is a man that we've been bigging up for the last few weeks. It's been on form as Lacazette. He went off injured. Looked like a hamstring strain. So interesting to see how long he's out for and how bad a strain it is, because it could be a season ender at this stage.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people would be bringing him in to obviously their Sky teams. A lot
of people did.
Arsenal Everton fixture on the horizon. I'm surprised I didn't, to be honest, with the amount of luck I've had with injuries this season. But yeah, people have been bringing him in FPL as well, obviously due to his good form, and he's only 8 million, so it's just a bit worrying to see him obviously go off.
Yeah, I mean they're going to hopefully want Aubameyang back from his bout of malaria. That's the reason why he's been out for a while. If not, I guess Martinelli and Nketiah, they're options. But with Arsenal being in the Europa League for now, whether it means anything, I don't know. We might still see mass rotation, and at this stage of the season, I don't think they're particularly worth a gamble. But like you said, yeah, second time that Fulham have had their clean sheet wiped out in the last kind of minutes of a game, and it's just 4 points lost for Scotty Parker in the last 2 games, really, through very last minute defensive mistake.
Yeah, you've got to feel for him, and it's kind of compounded with that Newcastle result. I don't think Fulham would have been expecting Newcastle to pick up 3 points against West Ham. Sort of worst case scenario, you'd expect them to get a point, but with West Ham's form. But obviously Newcastle have gone and won there, and it just makes Fulham's next few games a bit more pressure on them.
Yeah, it's what, 8 points the difference now. So obviously, if you take into account these 2 games, it could have been 4. They've still to play Newcastle, and they've got Sheffield United. The last 2 games of the season. Yeah, that's potentially 6 points, but that's not even enough now. They're going to need Newcastle to slip up continuously, and Fulham are going to have to pick up results where we don't necessarily expect it. All right. Another game which I actually particularly enjoyed watching, and as a Bruno non-owner, I was very happy as well. It was Man United 3, Burnley 1.
Very, very strong Man United performance in this one. Was particularly impressed with the last goal, with the counter-attack.
Yeah.
Was a little bit disappointed as a Bruno owner that Van der Beek didn't just smash it in from a tight angle. But obviously he made the right decision, which was squaring it to Cavani to just slot home. Cavani's looking very good as well. Very clinical. He's always in the right places. He just reads the game exceptionally well.
He's such a good number 9.
Yeah, and I think he'll be a good number 9 for, even though he's fairly old, for another couple of years, because of his footballing brain is ahead of half the defenders he plays against. His movement's really, really impressive, and it's similar to when Ibrahimovic came to Man United in terms of how much of a benefit he was to the team.
Yeah,
and a lot of people were sort of dreading this Cavani signing, thinking, "Oh God, it's going to be like another sort of Falcao signing." But credit to him, he's done a great job.
Yeah, no, exactly, and obviously didn't start the game. Came on in the second half and played particularly well. But a player that did start the game, and we've picked up a couple of weeks ago, rightly so. It's Mason Greenwood. Continues to go from strength to strength and got himself 2 goals in this game.
Very impressed with him. Obviously, we were impressed with him last season when he was scoring amazing goals from standing starts. The amount of power he generates on his shots is just amazing. Like,
honestly,
effortless as
when he
well.
hits them, they stay hit. In Christ,
Yeah, it's a joy to watch, to be honest. And then you just after this last two games, you're sort of sat there wondering, why don't I have him in my team? Why have I got this? Why have I got Jota in my team? Why have I got
yeah.
whoever? He's only what, I think he's 7.5 million or around that mark, and
7 million.
7 million, even cheaper. Yeah, he's got
Only
to be
owned by
one
2.9% of the game.
Yeah, great differential between now and the end of the season. I think that'll rise significantly before the end of the game week, if people can be asked to sort out their FPL teams after the new.
Exactly. I'm very tempted by him. The only issue I have is possible rotation with the Europa League. I mean, because occasionally he is benched, and for instance, against Spurs only played 18 minutes, but he did score a goal, so all fairs. And then against Man City again, he was rested, played 17 minutes against Man City, so he'll play a couple of games and then he seems to be dropped, and then he'll play a couple of games, then he's rested again. And understandably, I think Ollie is, protecting him a little bit because he is a key player for that Man United team, and I think he'll be essential if they're going to progress in the Europa League, if they're allowed to be in it. But it's just, I could very easily go Heung-min Son to Greenwood, for next week. Gets rid of Son for the blank, brings Greenwood in, arguably decent fixture. I think he could perform well, but it's Leeds at the end of the day, and you just don't know how they're going to perform against them. I think Greenwood could potentially be the type of player that profits, on the counter attacks. So that's my thinking. It's just a case of whether he will start. I would expect him to with his pace.
Yeah, so it's a good shout. Would you then get Son back in, or would you just stay on Greenwood?
I'd probably look to get Son back in. It depends on Harry Kane's injury. That's the big one, because we don't know as of yet how serious it is. We're aware that he probably misses tomorrow. I mean, if Kane then turns up at the weekend and bags, a goal, at least plays against Man City in the final, and then comes out well, then I'll probably bring Son back in, because I think we could potentially see an invigorated Spurs going out, towards the end of the season. Obviously, trying to get the fans back on side with the current news and, Mourinho's departure. So see how they set up. But yeah, for me, I might do the hokey cokey. And I think it was picked on. I was listening to Planet FPL pod, and James touched on it brilliantly. So anyone that hasn't given a listen, I think they should. But it's the whole potential double blank, surrounding game weeks 35, 36. It's navigating that with the fixture swings and the way the fixtures are being moved. So it's something to consider at the moment, and holding transfers back. Ideally, you'd want to go into that with 2 free transfers if you can, to at least avoid too much damage against those that are still holding free hit chips. I know that Sudge is, so he's in a really good position for that. But yeah, I think Greenwood could potentially be a good option. Right, and then jumping on to the final game of the week so far. Obviously, the game that came after the announcements, and we saw Leeds wearing some T-shirts, which I believe are actually going to be worn by a lot of clubs moving forward. So it was Leeds 1, Liverpool 1.
Yeah, a strange game in strange circumstances, but another good performance from Leeds. Did well to equalise, obviously right in the last sort of latter stages of the game. Yeah. Obviously, Trent assist, rewarding those who are on Trent. 3 bonus points as well, despite no clean sheet, which in my eyes is bullshit.
Corner again, love it.
Unbelievable. But yeah, I think it would have been easy for the players to get distracted and perhaps not have their head in the game. But credit to them. I think it was a relatively ordinary performance from both sets of players. Meslier played well, got a decent amount of saves. what a very good goalkeeper he is at his young age as well. I think he's only like about 20, and obviously goalkeepers tend to be better in the later stages of their careers. So credit to him to be performing so well in the Premier League and during a highly sort of charged game, really, in terms of what's been going on in the background.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I played Monday Night Football myself last night, so I saw the warm ups. I was watching Gary chat. Really, to be fair, incredibly well beforehand with Carragher. I think that they took the ESL debate, to another level between them. I managed to watch that. I saw the Leeds team come out with the t-shirts. Obviously, saw that Salah wasn't starting, which was a big talking point. And obviously, Nat Phillips missed out through potential, hamstring tweak. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes back. I think you own Phillips, don't you?
I do, yeah. I benched him for this game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, honestly, after the news, I just wasn't fussed about this game, and I posted it on Twitter. But usually on a Monday night, once we've played, as you know, we'd finish the game about 9:45, 10 o'clock. First thing someone would ask is, "Oh, what was the score?" Someone checks the phone. Nobody mentioned the Liverpool Leeds game at all as we all walked back to our cars. It was one of those, and obviously we'll come on to why, but yeah, it just took a dampener. And to be honest, I'm not massively fussed about the upcoming games either, but we'll have to wait and see.
No, neither am I. And I guess we can go for a quick run through those and what we potentially think may happen. So obviously, Chelsea, we may or may not, depending on how long this pod is, get the team news on the pod. But there's been rumours, obviously, of Mendy being dropped, similar to obviously Arsenal, where Leno got dropped. Kepa obviously played in the cup. I think he did play in the cup, didn't he? Yeah. And he, in credit to him, he's actually been doing okay recently compared to his performances under Frank Lampard. So I think that's why he's obviously been given a chance. Apparently, Matt Ryan's been training like a beast, so that's why
I know. Yeah,
he got his shot. Fair enough. I guess that sends out a message to the other players in Arteta's squad. If you work hard enough, he'll throw you in. Bit annoying for FPL managers where you think a goalkeeper is very much set. But yeah, Chelsea, Brighton. I expect Chelsea to win this game. I don't know if Brighton are going to have a ESL-shaped motivation to go out and tear into them. You don't know. Maybe Lewis Dunk might be motivating them. They might go out there all guns blazing and maybe take an early lead. You don't know how these sort of plans are going to affect players' mentalities. But yeah, I do still expect a decent result from Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm expecting Chelsea to win probably 2-0. Yeah, like James said, if we're still podding, we'll get the team news live, because I think my reaction will be, if Aspilicueta isn't starting, will be one of rage, because he's my captain in Sky and I obviously own him in FPL. So that'll be incredibly annoying if he doesn't start. But he is due a rest after playing obviously Man City and getting through to the final. I mean, great win for Chelsea, in fairness.
Yeah, no, played very well. Against City, obviously, as well. So you'd expect them to take that confidence and maybe, I mean, it's going to be a good game, actually, but providing it goes ahead. And
well, yeah. That's the debate at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. You feel like you can't. The future is very uncertain right now in football, as we'll come on to. But it'll be interesting, nevertheless, to see what happens.
Obviously, we've got the Wednesday games. The early kickoff is Spurs Southampton. I was incredibly disappointed by Saints' performance against Leicester. We didn't have a single shot on target. It was a pretty shit game to watch, to be honest. Hasenhüttl came out. I think he said that we left it out on the pitch. Did we fuck? It was
yeah. I disagree with that. It just felt like we didn't really go for it. It's like we're just constantly trying to stay in the game, and then, as you know, the time just ticks away, and we lost. But yeah, I felt we could have done a bit more attacking.
we're very much a team on the beach, and I think it could be a big summer. As to who moves on, we've got contract issues behind the scenes. It's going to be an interesting one for Saints, but yeah, it's not particularly an end of season that I'm enjoying, and the sooner it comes to an end, the better, I think, as a Saints fan.
Agreed.
And then the evening game is obviously Villa Man City, and again, big talking point, another of the ESL Big Six teams that are playing. Yeah, it'd be good to see how Villa deal with Man City. Obviously, Chelsea proved that you can close them out. Leeds have played particularly well against Man City last week, so how good a performance Villa can put in, I'm not sure, but I think it will be down to a really good, resolute defensive display if they can get anything out of this game.
Yeah, I expect Martinez to do well in this game. I feel he'll either come away with a clean sheet or at the very least a load of save points from a dominant Man City display. Is Grealish back for this game? I know we've been saying this every week. No? Is he confirmed out?
Yeah, Dean Smith's already confirmed that he's not even training on the grass yet. So
grass, what's he doing? He's playing on clay.
Yeah, he's still in the clay season.
Okay, cool. And then obviously last we're left with Leicester West Brom on the Thursday.
Yep.
West Brom obviously have had a bit of a resurgence recently. Leicester though obviously also playing very well.
Yeah, I think Leicester will win this comfortably, in my opinion. Obviously West Brom have had some good games recently, but I just think the way Leicester perform and the way Rodgers sets his teams up, I think Leicester, could easily win this 1-2-0 maybe. It'll be a big game in Sky because obviously it's a single game. Not many of us are on Leicester assets at the moment. So I think there could be a massive shift towards the likes of Ian Archer. His ownership's going to skyrocket inevitably. And it's whether you gamble. It's weird to say it, but whether you gamble on the likes of Jamie Vardy against, an in-form Ian Archer in Sky.
Yeah, very strange how Vardy is going to end up being the differential there.
Yeah.
Roles reversed. I'm south of for FPL, obviously gambled on Pereira, obviously the Leicester Pereira. I've seen a tweet today, which is a bit concerning. I think it was today or yesterday, about him and his hamstring. Rodgers saying how perhaps, I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly what he said, but essentially they're going to have to manage him, is what he was saying. So I'm a bit worried as to whether he's going to start the next game. You could also interpret his comments as we expected him to struggle a little bit with his injuries and we'll manage it. But so I don't know. It feels very 50-50 as to whether he's going to start. I hope he does because obviously I want that clean sheet. I want assist potential. He's only owned by about 0.8% of the game. Obviously, people gambled on him and he didn't really do anything. So that's why no one's brought him in. But I fancy Leicester's run from now until the end of the season. So that's why I brought him in.
No, good. No, that's fair. In FPL then, how are you getting on so far this week?
So far this week, I'm on 48 points. So, half of that is down to Harry Kane as captain. And then the only other real points I've got there is Cody and Lingard on 7 points each. The rest is sort of a sea of threes, twos and ones.
How many have you got left to play?
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 to play.
Similar here then. Yeah, I'm on 49, so we're very close this week. And Trent, Lingard, Kane, the only real returners. Yeah, for me, I've got 4 plus Kane. And obviously, we know that Kane probably won't play. So Son, Iheanacho, Azpilicueta, and John Stones. And that Man City team will be interesting. Stones was rested for the cup game. So I'm hoping he starts this week, and maybe the likes of Ruben Dias might get a rest, given I don't own him, but we'll have to wait and see. Right, quickly then, let's jump onto Sky, and obviously we're midweek at the moment, and it's been a frustrating week so far. Obviously, captaincy's not quite paying off, not showing up. Mo Salah, for instance, not starting. That was annoying. So 1 point double to 2 there. Lingard, obviously a bonus, and Kane doing well. So I'm on 60 points, which isn't the best. And I'm just continuously seeing a small drop in rank at the moment. I'm down to 75th, which is frustrating. I've still got 6 transfers in the bank. I think I'm holding them for, potentially this Leicester game. Depending on Kane's injury, I might just move Kane on for a couple of weeks to a Leicester player. Keep DCL because I need the coverage for this single, and then eventually maybe move DCL back to Kane. Who knows moving forward? But I was so close to removing Martinez for Leno, and it would allow me to go DCL to Iheanacho. So glad that Arsenal were the early kickoff there because I would have done it. And had Arsenal's game not been earlier, like a midday kickoff, because I play football on Sundays, I would have done it before I played without seeing the team sheet, fully expecting Leno to start, and I would have been devastated. So the fact that it was a later kickoff allowed me to wait until my game had done, come to see the team sheets and thought, fuck, there's no Leno. So yeah, I just changed my plans and I've held Martinez. So hopefully, like you potentially suggested, he could either get a clean sheet or a shit ton of save points, and that would be useful.
I hope so. I mean, I also own him. What was a horrific week for my team one because I have Son instead of Kane. That team, I wanted to get Kane, but I had to break my back to do it, so I didn't. And that team's ultimately suffered. It's gone down from, I think, 6K to 9K because it's only got 31 points. Team 2 does have Kane, so I've got 61 points, and I've sort of maintained rank at 2.4K. However, with the sort of injuries I've had to Neto and I think I had another injury as well, I'm now down to 2 transfers.
Oh, squeaky bum time.
So I'm very much hoping Kane's injury isn't anything too serious, and I'll be holding Kane.
Yeah,
even if he misses Saints, I'm not bothered. It's only a case of if he was to miss, I don't know, in the next 4 games that I'd consider taking him out because I've only got obviously 2 left.
Yeah, I saw in the Planet FPL Patreon, obviously Luke Disable, really good Sky player. I think he had 7 players flagged at the moment, which is incredibly unfortunate, particularly this period in the season because obviously we've got next to no transfers left. But yeah, when you've got the likes of, Pope, Rafinha, Antonio, Lingard had a flag at one point, Kane, DCL, they're all flagged and potentially not playing. So it's hard.
Nightmare stuff, and it just punishes you, even though you've managed to try and hold those transfers. They're just getting used up.
Yeah, and obviously you touched on it earlier, but I saw the likes of Dan Cox moved DCL to Lacazette potentially for the upshift. It was a good transfer in thinking about it because Lacazette could have easily gone off, got 2 goals, and then you've got the coverage this week as well. But to move from an injured player who potentially is coming back to a player that has now got injured, it's so harsh. But I guess that's the beauty of the Sky game. Like we don't have substitutes, so you're reliant on that first 11, and it just makes it more difficult to win at the same time. But we wouldn't enjoy it as much if it was easy. So yeah, I guess it just for me this season has taught me a lot about potentially not rushing transfers, and I think there's been a few times this season where I've maybe gambled a bit too early on maybe the likes of Harvey Barnes, for instance. I didn't need to move to a Leicester asset at that point, but I thought, I'm going to go Barnes. 60 minutes in, he gets injured in that game, and then he's fucked for 8-9 weeks. So I think it's all well and good chasing some points, but sometimes we don't necessarily have to chase. The transfers might be more valuable.
I'd agree with that. I feel the same. It's easy to be very reactionary in this game in Sky, and it's the fear of that sort of train of say Iheanacho moving without you in Sky. I feel like the top players in Sky very similar to FPL Twitter, where very quickly people sort of zero in on these players that are clearly expected to perform in the next couple of game weeks.
Big time, yeah. I think Iheanacho will be massively owned come Thursday night. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we'll see that ownership on Friday, but I'm fully expecting it to get at least past 50%. Right, let's jump on to the game that we needn't worry about European Super Leagues and whatnot, because it brings joy on a Thursday, and that's all we have to worry about. It is Fantasy ChampMan. And a really enjoyable week last week. Thoroughly enjoyed the stream. Obviously, we saw Mode was getting very excited. He had a brilliant week. Obviously, with the old Dion Dublin, it was his captain as well. Good on him. I brought in Larson rather than Dublin that week, so I was kicking myself a little bit, but I still did pretty well. I got 72 points, so can't complain. Good returns at the back from the likes of Gary Doherty is how I would say it. I mean, there was all sorts of discussion on the stream about how you pronounce his name, but I'm going to stick with Doherty. And then Sylvester. And then obviously huge in midfield for me, basically saved my game week. It was the mighty Alexanderson with fucking 14 points. Like, huge hole for my 4.5 Millwall midfielder. So, yeah, enjoyed that. And then, yeah, Larson, RVN, and Shearer up top. So, pretty decent.
Yeah, fair play to you with the Alexanderson shout. Obviously, he's been in your team for a couple of weeks, but credit to you for starting him. I mean, you could have potentially benched him, and that would have been a horror show.
I was tempted to bench him rather than Petkov, but having seen the CM data and then spoken to a few people in the chat, just it felt right to play him over Petkov, and I'm fucking glad I did.
Agreed. For myself, it was an okay week. I got 57 points. The Garys, Doherty and Neville got me 8 points apiece. Hippier got me 5 points. Kind of still waiting on these bonus points for Hippier, these notorious bonus points he gets since I've owned him. Haven't seen any of that.
No.
Larson, who I brung in and captained, hindsight, should have just done the old rude pick. But yeah, I myself was never considering, say, I don't know, the likes of Dion Dublin. I was very much sort of, my heart was set on Larson for these next two home games. Obviously, you got Bolton and then Ipswich. That was my fault in this move. For me, a grey arrow. So I've stayed in the exact same position.
Nice.
374th for both weeks.
Fair play. What did you make of the way that they did the leaks this week?
Oh, what, the press conference?
Yeah.
I prefer it to the spreadsheet where we have like the ambers and the greens and the reds. However, I feel like, I don't know, it's open to interpretation.
It is. I really enjoyed it. I didn't watch it live, but I watched it this morning whilst I was working. And yeah, I thought it was quite good. And it was interesting watching the chat, because there would have been points if I was watching it where I would have asked a question that no one else had asked. And it was good that the way, the responses were coming back and forward and we were getting some good information. For instance, it sounds like Larson potentially doesn't start, for Leeds this week, because obviously Alan Smith's playing. I think it's Johnson potentially in the AMC role. And Viduka, probably up top alongside Smith. And again, we've heard that Charlton, for instance, injury and rotation. So that's potentially incredibly targetable for Everton in there. And then obviously the CM data that we've seen, it looks as though, Middlesbrough wingers, obviously wingers against Derby, as we know, could be really, really profitable. So because of that, I've actually free hitted this week.
Cool. Interesting. Did they actually say definitively that Larson would be benched? I know they did with De Boer. Like, De Boer is very clear cut, is like he will be on the bench.
Through general,
but the Larson one, I felt like he might still play. It would just be a case of Leeds maybe repping and maybe a couple of players missing out.
Through general discussion, it seems to be that Viduka was starting. And because Viduka's starting and we've confirmed that Smith is starting, that Larson is the one to miss out. But I'm not 100%. I mean, there's been a couple of people questioning it in the Discord from what I've read, but then the responses have been, no, Viduka starts. So it's tough. In my free hit, I don't mind going through it, but in my free hit, I've brought in Viduka and Smith this week. I wanted Thierry Henry and I wanted him for captaincy, but that orange flag at 90% in my history of owning Thierry Henry going off after 59 minutes would just be horrible. So I've decided to avoid him. So I don't mind quickly running through it now, but my free hit is El Feropolis, that guy, the Everton goalkeeper. Ashley Cole, Unsworth, and Ian Hart, giving Ian Hart the armband. So we obviously know that Singh is out injured, giving Hart the armband. Midfield is Veron, Johnston, the postman, Zapata and Petkov, and then up top, Smith, Viduka, and Cherno, the mighty fucking Samba. So yeah, going with that, and then a bench of like Alexanderson, Southgate, McWilkin, Brannigan, just yeah, bench cover. But yeah, I thought, fuck it. I've not used any chips yet, so why not go for a free hit this week?
Yeah, I mean that sounds pretty good to me. I think obviously it makes sense to go on Hart when you know he's playing, as he's obviously a frustrating player to own. But for a free hit, fuck it. If he's
exactly
if he's playing, go for it.
Yeah, no,
sounds good.
Well, we've got a couple of questions on ChampMan, so we might as well cover them, and then we can get stuck into the ESL debate. So the first question was from FPL Buddy, and it is the question of, do I go Chiritos or Samba as a 1 week pick? So obviously, we know that Chiritos is the Ipswich forward, and Samba has obviously been confirmed starting. So yeah, for me, Samba. I think he's a bit of a cheat code in this game. So yeah, I'd be going Samba as a 1 week punt, and that's the reason that he's in my team. Plus, he's only 4.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go for Samba, but that's mainly due to the fact that I haven't heard of that guy, the other guy, till now.
It's understandable. And then the second question, it was more of a challenge. Craig Camp discussed on his pod, which I think everybody has to give a listen. It's about the leaks. Really, really good pod. And he is also free hitting this week, which kind of convinced me that my decision was probably the right one. Fingers crossed, Craig. But yeah, he's done a challenge where he's picked a 4.5 million team. I think we've then said that, you know what, we'll give it a go, but we're going to pick a team at 5.5 million. So rather than boring you all with the audio of it discussing every single player, it could go on for ages. We had a proper discussion before we started, and I think we've come up with a 15, haven't we, James?
We have, and I'll run through it now quickly. So the two goalkeepers, we're very much forced into it. We've got Crossley and Vesterveld, and then at the back we have Southgate, Gardner, Risa, Woodgate, and Radaby, who will be starting all five in a 5-4-1 formation. In midfield, we have Di Matteo, Gravison, Tessum, Flitcroft, and Cahill. We'll probably bench Cahill.
Probably.
And then up front, we'd just have big Duncan Ferguson up on his own. And if he was to not play, we'd have a sub of Libra coming in for Sunderland.
Yep. No, exactly. I think, yeah, but it's a really tricky price point. Defensively, there's a lot of options. So obviously we've gone down the route. Fingers crossed, Risa starts for Liverpool. I think that could be quite profitable. Leeds look good for the clean sheet this week. Fingers crossed. So that's the reason we've gone that way. Yeah, I think midfield was probably the hard. Obviously, midfield and forward line. You're kind of forced into that forward line, but midfield was tough because there isn't a lot to choose from, isn't there?
No, it's a bit tough. But yeah, if you're going for a 1 week punt, then Di Matteo is a very good pick. Obviously, great fixture for Everton at home against Charlton. And obviously, Tessum's been doing all right recently. I know we say form's not a thing, but he's got some good stats, and I imagine Watford to do well against Millwall.
Yeah. So we'll put that quickly into a ChampMan screenshot and then ping it over, and I'll post it on Craig's post. But yeah, for those that don't want to listen to any more debate about European Super Leagues, if you've already had enough, or if you're of the opinion that you're all for it, then thanks for listening. Really appreciate it. But you're more than welcome to switch off now, because I think we're going to dive deep into this European Super League nonsense, aren't we?
Yeah. I've been looking forward to speaking about it. Much to just get the anger and frustration off my chest. That's been with me since about 5 a.m. on Monday morning when I woke up to the news, basically.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I'll let you start, mate.
Wow. It's hard to know where to start with this, to be honest. But obviously, it's been born out of greed,
Yep.
which is sad to see. It's not about having an interesting competition. It's about how much money they can make from broadcasting revenue as possible. And very much like we've seen a sort of gradual shift in power from sort of the old owners of the past, where you'd have sort of wealthy English businessmen owning football clubs or even fan owned football clubs, to billionaires from around the world. And a large amount of the teams that are breaking away in this ESL are owned by sort of American billionaires who obviously want to replicate essentially the NFL kind of franchise model, where essentially they can make as much money as they want. There's less risk as well. I think that's the plan, where these teams get this certainty of TV money, of whereas obviously we've seen recently teams like West Ham and Leicester breaking the mold, and they don't want that. They don't want this competition. And the bit that hurts the most is that they want to take competition away from the game. And I think that's what the whole thing that makes football worthwhile. Like, you live for the shocks of, say, Sheffield United beating Man U, Burnley beating Man U. Those are the games that make football great, because the underdog can triumph over the team that's composed of £200 million players. And to take that away, it's just terrible. I say one of the best nights of probably mine and Matt's lives was, even though we lost, was going away to Inter Milan in Europe. Exactly. It wasn't even the Champions League, it was the Europa League. But that experience will stay with me for the rest of my life. And in this scenario that they're proposing, we wouldn't really have that.
Well, it won't happen, because they're one of the clubs.
Well, it'd be a closed shop, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's heartbreaking to see that they're so willing to go ahead with this. Obviously, we both woke up and name them now. The 12 teams are obviously Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, Tottenham, not Spurs, obviously, Man City. Then you've got Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, then Juve, AC, and Inter. Those are the 12. Obviously, German-wise, Bayern have come out and said that they don't want to be a part of it. Same as Dortmund, partly because I don't think they can, with the whole 51% rule out in Germany. Now, they've got that model down to a T. I think that's the right way to potentially run football clubs, that doesn't allow this, mass investment and greed, as you put it. It doesn't allow a club to move away from its fan base, which is essentially the core of all football clubs. I think it's nice to see that some players are starting to come out about it. Obviously, Milner mentioned it on the game yesterday. Bamford spoke a little bit about it. Rashford today has obviously put a post. It's good to see that even managers, Pep Guardiola, spoke about it in his press conference, and stating, well, football isn't right without competition. Well, this effectively isn't competition. It's an elite group of teams that want to get together, have their own league, like you say, essentially run it as a franchise business. No promotion, no relegation. How do you make money out of relegation? You can't. So for them, businessmen, it's perfect. But for us as fans, it's bullshit, because even speaking to, fans on Twitter of, Spurs, Arsenal, Man United, it's the one-off game that you get against Barcelona in the Champions League that is what you look forward to. Would you really look forward to it if you're playing them 4 times in a season?
Exactly. No, it's like having, I don't know, say pizza for dinner every day for a month. Yeah. You'd be sick of it.
That's right. Really well put.
Whereas if you have pizza once a month, you're really looking forward to having that pizza, that takeaway, whatever. But yeah, too much of a good thing. It just becomes routine. you'd be bored. You wouldn't be like, oh no, I need to see the big game tonight. You'd be like, nah, there'll be another big game. There'll be another big game tomorrow.
Exactly. And obviously the Premier League have very quickly come out, and so have most leagues, the French league, the German league, the Italian league, they're all completely against it. And the Premier League have even come out and said that, look, if this carries on, well, you're out. Now, I know that some people have mentioned that they're for that and let them go. I think it'd be heartbreaking to see those kind of clubs leave our game, because one, it's the fans that I feel for the fans most, because it's not just a football club to them. It's generation after generation of supporting the likes of Man United, Arsenal, Spurs. For me and you, we're not a top six fan. We both support Southampton. That's our bread and butter. We look forward to these big games. Occasionally we'll get to the semi-final of an FA Cup and then look shit, but at least we got there. Whereas these clubs, they're used to that kind of triumph in competition. But this season, where are they? West Ham, Leicester, they're above 4 of this so-called top 6. Now, that's ridiculous. That's what we want to see in the Premier League, is these kind of teams compete. And you'll be taking that away. But I don't think the Premier League would be what it is without that top 6. You can't have both. You can't have them go into this European Super League and playing in the Premier League. It just wouldn't be right.
No, I'd agree with that. I very much want either them to stay and not be in this ESL, or to go.
Yeah.
I'd obviously rather this just didn't happen at all. It's going to be interesting. I mean, we'll come on to it sort of later, I guess, as to what we think will happen, what it's looking like will happen. I mean, it's changing all the time. It's constantly developing. It feels like one big game of chess and poker between UEFA,
the big time,
the club's owners, and the fans is kind of just piggy in the middle, really, just wondering what the fuck's going on. Same with the players. Obviously, it's come out that Henderson has called a sort of a meeting between all the captains in the Premier League teams, which I think is pretty bold. I've heard Harry Maguire's sort of called out Clive Woodward and the United hierarchy, which not Clive Woodward.
Don't throw Clive under the bus.
Rugby man's getting involved. But no, it's good to see. We the silence was a bit deafening on Monday night before players said anything. Obviously, Milner was sort of the first, as you mentioned earlier. We've now seen like Bruno and Podence and Rashford, other players coming out, and I think we'll continue to see more of it. And good. To be honest, another point I'd like to make as well is, obviously, you look at the Premier League the way it is at the moment. The title's pretty much wrapped up. Man City have won the league. However, at the other end, we've got an interesting battle where 3 teams could go down. It's between sort of, I guess Brighton, Fulham, West Brom, maybe Newcastle as well, obviously. And that's exciting at this time of the season. I look forward to these relegation battles. Obviously, it's better if you're not in them. We are just about, I'd say, safe. It's fun. It's exciting. Whereas, say we're in a European Super League right now, City will have won it and it's wrapped up. There's nothing to talk about. There'll be no relegation. Those teams in the bottom half of this ESL would be well and truly on the beach. Where would be the motivation to play? You'd lose all motivation.
Yeah.
And those games would be soulless. If you've got 2 teams in the bottom half at the end of this ESL season, you might as well not even play them. If you were on FIFA, you'd sim them.
Well, exactly. Like you touched on it there, soulless is the prime word, because there's even talk that they want to take these games global. They want to, put them in Dubai, put them in America. So who the fuck's going? It's tourists at the end of the day that'll be going to those games. It's not fans. You've got the fans that have had season tickets. They've gone from White Hart Lane to the new White Hart Lane. They've had season tickets for the last 30 years. You've got fans that have gone from Highbury to, the new Arsenal Stadium, the Man United at Old Trafford fan, Liverpool, fucking the Kop, for Christ's sake. You're not going to have that if you go to this European Super League. Now, rightly so, and a lot of the Anfield fan, forums and fan zones have come out and said, "Well, take our flags down. We don't want our flags at the Kop." So I fully expect the Kop to be empty, come the next home game on TV, and they're making a stance. And you spoke about it earlier, obviously, with Maguire challenging Ed Woodward. The very fact that managers and players were not told about this, or what we believe they weren't told about this before the announcement, is fucking ridiculous. How you can have a board that go ahead and make a decision this big that impacts everybody at the club, and they're unaware that that decision is coming out at that very moment. Like Man United, we believe, went out knowing that, completely unknown to the fact that that decision was going to take place at the moment that they were playing. Now, that's madness.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very callous the way they all did it. Very cowardly. Announced it at what was about sort of 11:30 midnight on Twitter. I mean, Man United didn't even have the guts to do it on Twitter. They just did it on their website.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've not seen any board members from these clubs coming out to say, "Here's the vision, here's the plans." I mean, I'm sure the fans would be against it in whichever way the message was delivered, but it would be a damn sight easier to at least understand what the hell they're trying to do if they were a bit more transparent about what they're doing. And obviously that speaks volumes, really, that they're not this air of secrecy and they're kind of trying to force it through in the background.
Yeah, it's money at the end of the day. Like the very fact that this has come from it's Perez, isn't it? At Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Very much.
God, everything he says winds me up right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Real Madrid are in so much debt. Barca, this is the problem. The clubs that are involved in this, Juve, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man United, they are ridden with debt for the amount of money that they've spent on players. Juventus, for instance, like Cristiano Ronaldo, his signing, his salary, it's just put them, I'm pretty sure they're £300-400 million in debt because of it. Now, that is unmanageable over a prolonged period of time. And for these clubs to come out and blame the pandemic on the fact that they're being pushed to do this, fuck off. Because you had the likes of Liverpool, right? Obviously, furloughing members of staff, Tottenham furloughing members of staff, Arsenal, for instance, sacking their fucking mascot to save what, 30 grand a year? Meanwhile, they're discussing a contract that's worth what, 350 billion over a period of years for this member. Are you joking me? So you're actively sacking someone from their job during a pandemic when you know that these discussions are going on in the background.
Yeah, it's disgusting. I mean, I think Tottenham, obviously, it was good timing for them to finally get rid of Mourinho, where they feel like they've got this justification of this money coming, and obviously they were reluctant to do it due to the amount of money it would cost to get rid of him. But yeah, the whole thing is just sickening. And what I really don't like is the sort of how they've referred to sort of traditional fans as legacy fans, which is, wow, it's fucking bullshit, isn't it, really?
Legacy.
And then saying how they want to appeal more to the newer fan. I mean, while simultaneously saying that 16 to 24-year-olds don't care about football and feel like the game's too long. That's absolute bullshit. Yeah. I mean, if I was still in that age bracket, sadly I'm not, I'd be fucking livid. I mean, I'm livid anyway, as it is, but it's just insulting, the things they're coming out with. And to be honest, I don't even think this idea is actually that profitable in terms of the die-hard fans. They're the ones that spend a lot of money in terms of like fucking memorabilia, booze, all that kind of stuff. I feel like the modern fan will just very much kind of dip their toes into it as and when they will. Like, especially if their club, say, is bottom of this ESL, I think their loyalty won't be the same as a legacy fan who will support that team. I mean, I guess the idea is that there's no relegation, so therefore they're always going to be in this glorified ESL. But I think their projected revenues are a bit too optimistic. I think like if you factor in like the reaction of all these legacy fans that are going to be turned off and probably never watch this whole league at all. And also, like their product, the quality of the product would decrease. Like the crowds would be terrible.
Yeah, I just don't understand how these clubs believe that they're elite enough to do this. I mean, yeah, you're going off the basis of, you know, finances effectively is what they're doing, and perhaps history for certain clubs. You know, you like your Man Uniteds, your Barcelonas, your Real Madrids, but I mean, for Spurs and Arsenal this season in particular, to come out with this, given their performances, you know, in both Europe and in the Premier League, have been woeful. Now, Arsenal, yeah, they're in the semi-final of the Europa League, but they've been terrible in the Premier League this season. What? So you're telling me that on the back of this season and these performances, and even to be fair, since Wenger's gone and before Wenger, you know, even left, Arsenal have been poor. Like we all talk about how poor they've been. Do we really believe that they're elite enough to go into this club? They'll get fucking spanked week in, week out with the squad that they've got. Legacy fans are going to turn off instantly, and are they really going to bring in, you know, the so-called tourist fan for Arsenal against Barcelona when they turn up and they get beat 5-0, you know, one week and then 3-0 the next? It's not for me, and I wouldn't be watching it because there's no competition at the end of the day, which is the biggest problem. And they turn around and they're like, yeah, we'll have it up to 15 clubs that will never be, you know, relegated, never be promoted, but we'll invite 5 extra teams in every year, you know, down to performance. Oh, will you? Will you really? So you're going to select 5 teams. Oh yeah, you can come in this year, but by the way, you won't be allowed next year. You know, we'll pick someone new. These clubs aren't going to want to sign up for that. It's you're talking fucking how many extra games that they're going to have to play, whilst also playing in the domestic leagues and the cup competitions and, you know, the Champions League, which we'll come on to shortly, because I don't know if you've got an opinion on the way that the Champions League revamp is, but I'm not for it, which is potentially one of the reasons why these clubs are pushing this, because it might be a bargaining chip at the end of the day. But if it is simply a bargaining chip, they have jeopardized hundreds of thousands of fans' loyalty to clubs purely on the basis to get some more money from UEFA.
Well, yeah, it's a very stupid PR move, and or even like for those fans of those top 6 clubs, it's going to be hard for them to trust. Well, they won't trust their club again.
No.
Because I mean, like, you expect it from, I guess, City and maybe Chelsea, but Liverpool kind of pride themselves on the kind of values of like Shankly and those that sort of went before them, like with the values of the fans being the most important part of a football club and about it being the community and the collective. Whereas obviously this is just shat all over it. It's very much a money grab, I guess, really. And like, there's a good clip of a Liverpool fan, which I'll probably share on the Season Keepers posts. It's from a couple of years ago, basically speaking out against modern football and about how with the ticket prices and like how there's not a Scouse voice, there won't be a Scouse voice on the terraces. And at this rate, it won't even be in Liverpool. It'd be in Shanghai, Dubai, wherever. And I think, we mentioned that earlier, but I think that would be horrific for Liverpool to just be essentially the Harlem Globetrotters playing here, there, and everywhere. Essentially what they do in pre-season, but actually for the actual season. I think it's ridiculous. I love the way we all have our respective national leagues. I think it's a good thing. It's they're built on the kind of communities and the structure. Like obviously they give back to the local communities. Football clubs provide so many social benefits that you won't even think about, you won't even see, such as training tops for kids, days out for kids, disadvantaged kids, food banks. A lot of them are food banks. That could all erase for what? Just so some shareholders can get even more money, a couple of extra zeros in their bank account. It's disgusting.
It is, and I've been watching Sky Sports. I have it on in the background whilst I'm working downstairs, and it's been interesting kind of seeing the constant updates that they've had on there. And they've been speaking to a couple of board members. Obviously, they won't give their names; they want to remain anonymous. But it's been really interesting to hear from these board members from this so-called top six, elite. And some of the comments are really interesting. So one of them was saying that the board that they're in is incredibly split on the decision anyway. There's a few of them that are completely against it, but obviously they don't feel that they've got a big enough voice to stand up against the masses of money grabbers. Effectively, that's what I'm going to call them, because they are money grabbers. And then there was another one that basically came out and stated that during one of the meetings, one of the board members basically stated that they didn't give a shit about the PR and the bad PR and the press, because the game that they were in was purely about making money. And that's how they see this European Super League, is to maximize the available profit for the club. Now, that's insane. If you've got board members at that level, they clearly don't give a shit about the fans. Yeah, the players will and the managers will, but at board level, all they care about is finance at the end of the day and whether they're making a profit. And if these people are allowed to continue to run our football clubs, then eventually something huge will happen, and this might be it. And it'll be heartbreaking to see what we've grown up with, what our parents have grown up with, what our grandparents have grown up with, through the years, the first division through to obviously the Premier League, being developed in 1992. That had backlash at the point, but it was nowhere near as bad as this. Now, to see that taken out of a community is, it would ruin people. And that's not an understatement. Like you said about, the fan, there's no Scouse voice in the Kop. There won't be. If you think of the tens of thousands of families that Liverpool is probably their everything, For instance, Man United will be another family's everything, and Arsenal will be another family's everything. If you have that taken away from them and they get to see their club once a year at home, maybe on a visit, with players that they don't really recognise and managers that are only there, because they want to make the money, are they going to have that relationship with their club anymore? Probably not.
No, exactly. And it's a lot of people's sort of whole identity, like diehard fans. It's what they live for. They go to work Monday to Friday. They work extra hours to get money to go to the games, to travel up and down the land to see their team play away from home. Whereas obviously, if the games are here, there, and everywhere, a lot of these people won't be able to go. Like, I know a lot of fans pride themselves on them. They go to every home and away game. They'll even make it to like bloody, I don't know, say Eastern Belarus in the Europa League. They'll go to literally every game. But if these plans were to sort of come to fruition, it would be impossible. They'd be probably having to go to Tokyo one week, bloody New York the next. You would not be able to afford it. It would be insane.
It reminds me of a phone call that I heard on TalkSport. I rarely listen to it now because some of the people that phone in just piss me off. And Monday, when I was listening, it reminded me of why I don't, because there was a Man United fan, I think, phoned in. Call him a fan, effectively a tourist probably, but phoned in and he was saying, oh, well, he's all for it. He's all for this because he'll get to travel to Barcelona and he'll get to go to Shanghai. And fair play, I think it's Laura Woods. Her response was obviously, well, that's incredibly unfair because not everybody can afford that. And the bloke's response was like, I don't care. If you want to support the club, you'll pay the money to support the club. Are you fucking kidding me? So you telling me that these families that, can just about scrape together season tickets for, their dad and their son to go to Anfield, what, are then suddenly going to pay thousands upon thousands of pounds for flights to go and watch, Liverpool play AC Milan in Shanghai on a Saturday?
Right. He's deluded. Um, I think, yeah. So you made an interesting point earlier about how some of the sort of board members are actually almost wanting to sort of back out of this.
Yeah.
I think that was from, I think it was Chelsea and Man City were getting cold feet,
Yeah.
and I think if they were to, to pull out, I think that would be obviously a great thing. I did see a tweet where someone was saying that we should then come down really hard on these people for backing out, but I think we shouldn't discourage them from doing that. I think what we ultimately want is this thing to not happen, and we should, not forget the selfishness and the greed and the horrendous plan that all these clubs have agreed to do. But if they can come out of it and sort of see sense, then that's a good thing, and I think we should encourage that.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, yeah, for me, if it doesn't go ahead, then brilliant. You know, I still get to see Southampton play Man City, and you know, we watched them last season when Saints put up pretty good performances. It's the thrills that you get from scoring a goal there and looking like you're potentially going to come away with a win that means a lot. So for me and you as Saints fans, yeah, I won't forget the fact that those at the top levels of these clubs were so willing to sacrifice everything to make their own money. And that, yeah, that will come down hard on those clubs from our point of view. But I think they'll suffer themselves anyway from their own fans, because their own fans will no longer want those boards in charge if they were so willing to sacrifice everything to ruin what they believe in and what they've had from generation upon generation. So even at this point, yeah, they've come out and said, well, we expected bad PR. Well, mate, if you think this is bad, wait till fans are in the ground, because the very fact that they've announced this during the pandemic when no fan is there is cowardly, because you can't get 30, 40,000 fans, even more, you know, at Anfield and Old Trafford voicing their opinion on this. You can just about get 100 to 200 people outside of a ground doing a protest right now without them getting in trouble, you know, from, you know, breaking pandemic laws and whatnot. But why couldn't they have, you know, waited till June and said, well, next season we're going to do this? Because they're cowards at the end of the day. They're not allowing the real fan who supports that club to have their say. And at the end of the day, yeah, if they think the PR on Twitter is bad, wait till people are allowed back.
Completely agree. I mean, it's the perfect time for these arseholes to do this. The reaction with the fans in the ground would have been very intense. I'm not even sure if, but maybe they would have even called games off. There would have been threats to, like, potentially people would have, even if they say they did go ahead, people would be throwing flares on the pitch. There'd be carnage. It would be, there'd be protests. They'd be going up towards where the sort of board members are sat, probably banging on the glass. It would be it would be carnage, and rightly so. Like, but yeah, fans have just been restricted essentially to Twitter to protest, but yeah, our feelings will be heard. I mean, they are heard. I think Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher have been sort of excellent sort of mouthpieces for the
Agreed.
legacy traditional fans. Let's stop saying legacy fans. Traditional fans. Agree with pretty much everything Gary Neville said. Credit for Jamie Carragher as well for sort of raising the point against Sky whilst working for Sky about how this had sort of happened before.
Yep.
However, obviously, it's worth noting that Sky still retained the element of competitiveness. They didn't destroy the pyramid. They just rebranded it essentially.
Yeah.
Whereas you can still, Accrington Stanley could still get promoted 3-4 times and then win the Premier League in theory.
It's still a possibility, albeit the most marginal of possibilities, sure. But Leicester were 5,000 to 1 to win the Premier League, and they fucking did it. And that's a story that those Leicester fans will hold for their lifetime. Now, would that mean as much without the likes of Man United, Man City, Liverpool in the Premier League? Probably not.
No, it would be demeaned. And I'm so glad that has happened prior to this.
Yeah.
So if this was to go ahead, I'd cling fondly to that. I'm not even a Leicester fan, but I'm a football fan, and that season was magical for every supporter.
Yeah, exactly. And for that to be taken away from us would be heartbreaking. Now, don't get me wrong, because yeah, we might sound biased, towards these big clubs and whatnot, but I think if any businessman that owns a football club, probably including ours, we're Chinese owned at the moment. If we were offered the chance to get into this elite Super League, I can guarantee that those at senior level would have said yes. Because
I've got some breaking news. I'm just going to interrupt you. 3 minutes ago on the BBC, Chelsea are preparing documentation to leave the Super League.
Okay, good.
So they're requesting their withdrawal from the Super League. So that's very promising. I'm delighted to say. Yeah, I mean, we might as well check the Chelsea team news while we're here.
Oh God, it's 7:00 already.
Yeah, we've been having a good time moaning about how shit this stupid idea is. Clicking on the lineups, you will. Oh fucking hell, we're both not happy.
Oh mate, don't tell. Oh, is Aspilicueta not started?
He's on the bench.
Fuck off.
It's our captain right there in Sky. Well, I guess the consolation is many other people's captain in Sky as well. Obviously, those sat with 1 million transfers will just.
It just compounds the fact that those have held Dunk in Sky have done very well out of this.
I mean, I'm one of them, but but you're sitting pretty. You're in 75th place.
Yeah, I'm not going to be soon. I tell you, Aspilicueta was a saviour today, and
yeah,
he's probably not even going to on. He's due his rent. That's annoying. But no, obviously Chelsea for that statement to obviously break during the pod. It's great to see. It's quite clear that there were clubs probably that were invited that potentially, well, obviously wanted to be a part of it, but were incredibly wary of what could happen, announcing the fact it's taken a day and a half for Chelsea to potentially back out shows just how strong a voice fans do have, and how little credibility this whole thing, has at the end of the day. The likes, I was very surprised. I thought, Abramovich, you mentioned about Liverpool and the whole family club. I thought the whole thing with Abramovich, he's managed to grow Chelsea into the club that they are. Would he really want to diminish that by joining this European Super League? I'm not so sure. But I guess we've spoken about the Super League and our views, and I think it's quite clear that we're not for it. But I also think this is probably a reaction to UEFA and the way that they're approaching the Champions League and the Europa League. And obviously we've got the Europa League 2 and whatnot that they're considering, and the revised Champions League, which is apparently set to take place in 2024, where it is effectively a Super League of teams that, gain the opportunity to be in there through the current ways. But they're talking about like leagues of 10 teams where they play each other, throughout a period of games, and then get to the quarters and whatnot. It's more games. I think Jurgen Klopp touched on it, that he didn't like it because it's adding potentially like an extra 6 games into the calendar year, because they want to increase the amount of teams that are in the Champions League. Now, again, I don't think that's great for the game, because we'll continue to then see more and more rotation. And that's not what we're going to see. It's, as fans, we want to see the best of the best week in, week out. Injuries will then obviously continue to be on the up. They have been this season, both through a pandemic and the amount of games that are being played week in, week out. But there has to be a conclusion between UEFA, FIFA, and then, all the domestic football associations across, Italy, France, England, on how this moves forward. Because at the moment, I don't think UEFA's proposals are correct, but this European Super League is not the answer either.
No. The UEFA proposals, I'm not a fan of either. So yeah, as you say, with the kind of bigger league, with then going on to follow the normal kind of knockout format. I'm not a fan of it either. The extra games, and also I feel like the current format works quite well.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Exactly. I think the group stage is good, and then they have obviously the third team dropping out into the Europa League. I think that whole kind of format works quite well. You've got the taste of like a group stage and obviously a knockout stage. And there's not too many games. Other suggestions, I don't know what they could do. I guess in theory they could just do one league and no knockout, and then have it like a Premier League where like the top person just wins the league, but then you wouldn't have a final.
No,
So that
yeah,
wouldn't work.
and the amount
Um,
of games you'd have to play in that would be insane.
yeah, you could obviously do like a straight cup, but then it's not a Champions League, is it? Then it would be like the old European Cup. But yeah, I think the current format works well. I've also seen that UEFA are planning to what is essentially seems similar to the Super League, but just not change anything, but go for after extra investment to generate 7 billion as opposed to I think it was 3.5 billion by
Yeah,
going to an investment firm and raising the funds and then obviously charging the rights and so on to rival the Super League to try and arguably bring in more money and then tempt those clubs back.
mm.
However, it's just it's, again, money. Like that's not what we're concerned about. I don't want money. I want the format to be appealing. I want the game to be competitive. I want the domestic leagues to not suffer. Whereas all these plans, something suffers, and it's either the fans or the clubs.
Yeah, exactly that. It's not right. And at the start of this, when it all came out, I was of the belief that fuck, it's really going to happen. The fact that they've gone this far to make these statements, uniformly across the board at that moment, I thought, right, okay, they're serious. The very fact that it's then gone on for what 36 hours so far, and you're already hearing about clubs wanting to pull out. The I personally don't know anybody that is in agreement with it, and those that are in agreement with it are in the complete minority. And then when you get the likes of, the only people that are able to broadcast their say at the moment are the likes of Neville and Carragher, obviously, like you said, spoke so well on Sky. And then players already coming out. It's only going to go one way, and surely that will just be going back, sitting on their hands, accepting the fact that this was a ridiculous idea, and they'll have to take it on the chin. The negative press that they're going to get, the voice from the fans won't go away. I think they will continue to make themselves heard and how annoyed and angry they are about this decision. But at the same time, in a couple of years, if we've still got the leagues that we want and the Champions League is, as competitive as it is, we'll potentially have forgotten about it. But it has to remain that the game stays for the fans and not for the finances, and that's the biggest concern for me.
Yeah, as is mine. It's the competitive element which is the most concerning that will get removed. But yeah, well, I guess we're going to have to see how it pans out. The information's changing all the time. As we heard during this pod, we've got an announcement with Chelsea. Just got to sit tight and I guess try to not endlessly scroll Twitter. That's what I was doing basically most of Monday.
Yeah.
If I'm honest.
Didn't really get any work done on Monday.
I'm going to say out of work hours for people listening. It was, in fairness, at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., I was endlessly scrolling Twitter.
Yeah.
I couldn't go back to sleep.
I was asleep.
Yeah, like such a bombshell, really. And I don't know what I'd do. Like, I don't care about any other sport to the same degree.
No, not at all. I don't follow any sport to the same degree. Obviously, I play football, I watch football, I go to St. Mary's when we're allowed. I just don't think the Premier League would be anywhere near what it is had there been a breakaway. And obviously, football for us would probably lose a lot. We play these fantasy games based on the fact that we can pick the elite players in our clubs, your Harry Kanes, you can captain them and then you get the points, and you can appreciate the fact that these clubs are great clubs. They've got great players that they win trophies. But at the same time, little old Southampton can turn up to them one weekend and get a win. And it's that moment that you'd lose. And it's not a moment that I want to see leave our game at all.
Agreed.
Right. Well, I think we've gone on for long enough. And if you're still with us now, thank you very much for sticking with us, for listening. We'd really appreciate, if you have a view on the ESL, and obviously as things change, feel free to, ping us a DM, comment on the post, whatnot. We're more than happy to chat with you. But yeah, I think leaving it on that moment, I'm going to go get myself a strong beer, make some toast, and I think I'll avoid the Chelsea game now because I couldn't give a shit now Aspilicueta isn't playing.
I don't think I gave a shit anyway, really, until this is kind of kicked out the way. I'm a bit disillusioned with football.
That's fair. Right. Well, obviously, good luck for the rest of the game week, everybody. Those that play ChampMan, we will see you on Thursday. And then on that note, it's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Cheers, guys.
Fuck the year.